it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today we are going to be combining and reorganizing my Work Your Light and Starseed Oracles to create one custom deck. If you'd like to skip the process and go straight to the final card selections, you will find the corresponding timestamp in the description box below. So let's go play with some Oracle cards. So a couple of weeks ago, I got pretty much all, I think, of the oracles with artwork by Danielle Noel. I have the Starseed Oracle, the Work Your Light, and a Yogic Path. And I have been using these decks together to do some readings. And I do want to do a video on that as well. But what I kind of noticed as I was going about this process and doing like some of my readings, I was using these decks together. So you can see here's one. So I think there's another one here. And so I was using the Moonchild, the Yogic Path. So Moonchild, Yogic Path, and then I was using the Starseed and the Work Your Light Oracle to do some different readings. And I really was enjoying the way that all of those decks work together. I started feeling like the Starseed and the Work Your Light Oracle had some really similar energies, and I kind of felt like I was maybe getting some of the same messages in cards from the two different decks. So me being me, I set out in total like nerd mode, and I pulled these two decks apart, went through both the guidebooks, and this is what I did. So these are the two decks all together, and you can see I have flags here because I have gone through, I'm running out of space here, every single card in these two decks, and I took in a notebook, let's just move those up there. I put in a notebook basically every card, which deck it came from, and then I actually read every entry for every card in both of these decks. This took me like a couple of days to do because I did it in chunks, but I read through the guidebook for every card in both decks, and I also did some like comparison reading between the two when I found cards that felt like I'd seen that card before, and I went through and I kind of compared them. So what I did was basically made lists of all of the cards, what deck they came from, and kind of like some key energies or topics or whatever, the foundational energy of the cards. So I went through and I did that for both decks. So then what I did is I basically divided the cards up into, let's see what I have. I think I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, well, technically 6 because this is one as well. So 6 different sort of categories so that I could kind of try to make sense of where those repetitive energies were. Now, these are not necessarily categories that are represented in either one of the guidebooks. So these are just categories that I came up with myself in order to try and make some sense of where those repetitive energies were coming from, and to see if that was actually really a thing. Was I really finding that repetitive energy, or was it just maybe feeling like I was getting it? Either way, it got me to thinking that I wanted to see maybe how much of the thoughts, topics, ideas, and energies were repeated throughout these two decks. And then I thought maybe what I might do is kind of pull out some of those repetitive energies and just combine them into one deck, because while I do like having, the multiple decks, I would kind of like to have maybe one section or one deck for each kind of thing. So the Starseed and the Work Your Light definitely has a very kind of cosmic, divine guidance, kind of cosmic connection, that Starseed energy, right? And that's very representative throughout both of these decks. The Moonchild also has a kind of similar energy, but I think it's a little bit more kind of grounded in some earthy type energies as well. So I think that it kind of has a really nice balance. And then I got the Yogic Path, which is, written by different authors. So all of these cards were written by Rebecca Campbell. These were obviously written by Danielle Noel, and a Yogic Path was written by Sahara Rose. So they all three have different authors, but the artist is Danielle Noel in all of them. And you will definitely see that, that similar, her art style is definitely represented throughout. But I found that the yogic path had a really wonderful grounded energy. So I kind of felt like I had this starseed, this earth energy, and this bridge in between. And so that was working really well for me in terms of those energies. But having these two decks divided up into two decks basically meant that I had that kind of starseed energy, that cosmic connection repeated twice. And I just felt that they kind of worked a little bit better together. So that's kind of where I started with all of this. That's the rabbit hole thinking and how we ended up where we are today, which is basically me trying to create one oracle out of these two decks. I thought maybe we just do it together so we can see kind of like how I would take two oracles that have a similar energy, similar feel, and build it into one. So the first section that I pulled out is actually the timing card. So in the Work Your Light, there's a yes and a no card. And in the Starseed Oracle, there's a wait card. So those three just kind of felt like they belong together. I don't know that I will keep those in for just normal readings, but I think they would be really great for really specific readings, or definitely if you're looking for that yes or no answer. You can definitely tell the difference between the two decks because the Work Your Light has the white border, or the white bottom, and the Starseed has the purple one, so that works really well. They of course also have two different backs, but I think they're all really compatible. So they all go really well together. They're both by Hay House. They have that wonderful matte Hay House finish, so that I think works really well. And I'm going to put those aside because those are obvious. Those are like the three timing cards. Then we get into a little bit of the gray area. So the 5 areas that I divided them into these were cards like about self. So kind of like that soul self energy. And then we had cards that were about kind of your soul path. A lot of karmic energy, things of that nature here. So then I have a selection of cards that are like that cosmic, earth connection. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff, so this is just me kind of doing my own thing with it. We have a couple of cards, or a handful of cards they were kind of like activities, like things you could do, right? Kind of action cards type of thing. And then this whole selection of cards was really about like healing and growth. And so I kind of just divided those up into their own because there's quite a few of them. And so that just kind of makes it a little bit easier for me to go through and see what is similar. So that's kind of what I did. So that is basically both decks, all the cards. Let's see, there's 53 in the Starseed. And there's 44 in the Work Your Light. So quite a few cards there. So I thought at this point now we'd go through, and I have kind of put them together into sort of what I felt were repetitive energies, but I thought maybe we'll just kind of go through and do it a little bit more in detail. So I just have to say, like, I love this Whale and Orca Elders card. I didn't even know this was in the deck when I got it, and I was so surprised when I came across it because, like, whales, in particular orcas, are like a spirit animal for me. They're an animal that I really connect with, and so to have this one that actually is like has an orca on it, anytime I find a card with or a deck with orcas or elephants, I'm like all about it. Those are like my animals that I get really excited anytime I see those in a deck. So I'm just going to point this out because I'm just going to be honest in this sort of little whatever it is that I'm doing here. Sometimes what's on the card and what's in the book really doesn't jive. Like they really, and I'm not talking about the artwork. I'm talking totally about the write-ups. So sometimes the keywords and the titles really deviate from what's in these guidebooks. So there were a couple of times where I'm like, I don't even know where you came up with that title because that you haven't mentioned anything about that in the actual description of the card. But sometimes that happens. But I just want to point that out that did happen from time to time. So we have Share Your Song. And in the Work Your Light, we have Share Your Voice. So now this one says come out of the cave, persecution, expression. I do have to say that I'm not fond of the keywords on the bottom of most of these cards, and some of the titles I'm not fond of either. So I'm just going to be honest with you about that. So these two felt like they were kind of repetitive energies in terms of how they were presented in the book, of like basically, you know, be yourself and let your light shine and all of that. And we're going to keep going with the let your light shine, because here we have don't dim to fit in. You know, how are you dimming your light in order to fit in? So here we have like multiples, be yourself, share your voice, be yourself, share your voice. This one does talk a little bit in the description about, you know, the elders of the whale energy. So that deviated a little bit. And these are all, I mean, none of them are exact, right? They're just, to me, they have a similar energy or a similar vibe. And so that's what they got. That's how I kind of grouped them up together. And then again, we have the, you know, be yourself. Don't dim to fit in. Then we have you're not for everyone. Embrace your weirdness. Face your true north. Some of these titles, some of the keywords do appear on multiple cards. And when you start really looking at that in detail, you see how often certain phrases get used in both of these decks. So again, we're like, be yourself, right? So we have 4 cards that are basically saying, you know, be yourself. Now, I do want to say I'm super simplifying here, right? There is more in these guidebooks. I'm not like discounting the guidebooks. I have all of Rebecca Campbell's books. I do really like her work. But I'm just talking about for me in a reading and the way that I use my oracle cards. These all feel like they have similar energies. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this one out, and I'm going to make a pile of cards for like support energies. So like things outside of ourself, like going to our soul tribe, going to our angels, our ancestors, our guides, things of that nature. So that's where that one's going to go, because for me that card is really not about the share your song or all of that, the frequency of sound. It's about connecting with the whale energy. So that for me works really well, and I put these all back together. So I thought that one's going to hang out for some of our ancestor energy, and I'm going to have to start making some larger piles. And now at this point, so because I'm going to build my own oracle here, right? So I'm going to take the one of these that I like, and that's the one I'm going to keep. I really don't like this don't dim to fit in. It's nothing wrong with the sentiment. It's just the language that doesn't thrill me. It's in one of her, it's in her Work Your Light book too, like a lot. So, you know, this one is really like, come out of the cave, share your voice, do your own thing. And this one is like, okay, do your own thing and then be okay if you're not everybody's cup of tea. So I think those two actually work quite well together. I do have to say that I'm actually considering chopping off the small titles at the bottom. So we'll see. So for those, I'm going to leave both of those in. So then we move into the kind of awakening, activation, transmission energies. So there's 3 of those that I feel kind of had a similar energy. I'm going to have a couple different piles going here, so you just have to bear with me. You can always totally skip to the end and see what I end up putting together. But so the blue flame, I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I feel like it might have some place, but not quite yet. So I'm going to have a maybe pile. This one is in my nope pile, and then I have my other piles for whatever else. So these two, I kind of feel like, you know, this is like more about lifting yourself up, and this is more about connecting with the cosmos. So I think these both work. Again, I like the titles better than the keywords at the bottom. So the next we have, I think I have a couple intuition cards here. Yeah, so I had 3 cards. Is it 3? Oh, there's more. 3 cards that kind of tap into that intuition. So we have baby steps, which is basically follow your intuition, go slowly, right? We have all paths lead home, which is about inner authority, intuition, turning inward. And then we have trust the niggle, which again is intuition, turning inward. These 2 cards feel exactly the same to me. And I don't like this particular card. I'm not fond of the artwork. I think this one is so much prettier. And I really don't like that niggle word that she uses. So, but again, that's just me personally. This one I really like. And I think that one is really a wonderful card. And I love the imagery on it. This baby steps one, this again is going to go in my maybe pile, because I feel like there's another card in here that has a similar kind of action type of thing. But I put it in here because it is basically about following your intuition. So it kind of went into this section. But it might make a better action card later on. Okay, so next we have, I think these three, which are kind of more about like raising your energetic vibration and things of that nature. So we have Pillar of Light, which is your vibration is rising. This one is about raising your vibration. We have Child of the Cosmos, which is about trusting the universe and again raising that vibration. And then we have the Golden Child, which was kind of about like you know, like being a new human and people born with special gifts. And I gotta say, this one, I didn't really get it. So this one's gonna go in my note pile just because I didn't really get it. It didn't really make a good connection for me. So, you know, the Pillar of Light is more about the raising of the energy, and the Child of the Cosmos is kind of about like trusting the universe. And I think there is another card that's similar to that. So I am going to kind of let that one hang out because again, it had a similar energy and a lot of these kind of overlap in some ways. So it was kind of hard to find piles to put them in. So I'm going to keep Pillar of Light for sure. Now we've got these three cards are all about like tuning into yourself. So this one is like basically it's inner temple. It's tune into the portal of your heart. The Cosmic Heart was basically about tune into your cosmic heart. And the Courageous Peony was all about basically let yourself be seen. Again, this one is really similar to the, you know, share your voice, be who you are, that kind of thing. So I'm not thrilled with the title on that one. So I'm going to pull that one out. And these two, I think, are really beautiful. But to me, that's basically the same thing. It's about being devoted to yourself. And so I think I'm going to keep Inner Temple because I like that sentiment. But I am going to keep this card out in my maybe pile because if I end up chopping off the bottom, the Cosmic Heart is more to me of like a connect to the cosmic energy in the world, connect to everyone's heart, right? So I'm going to pull that into my maybe because, you know, just maybe I want to keep it. Talked about sort of soul, like be who you are, be your own person, you know, step into your soul, that kind of thing. Now we have cards that are kind of indicative of like following your soul path. So here again is Face Your True North. We saw that in another card. I think it's over here now. Let's see. So these three, they do tend to kind of be in threes. This one is I Remember. So it's soul plans. It's about basically tapping into, you know, your past lives to guide you. Here's Lost Lands, soul memories. You've done this before. Again, tapping into that past lives. And the Age of Light is you've been training for this for lifetimes, is again tapping into that past life. So again, simplifying, but for me, these all have the same energy. This card is not really one of my favorites, and I do tend to like the artwork better in the Starseed Oracle, and I'm sure it's just because it's newer, and as artists, we all grow and develop and change. I like the remember, you know, I've been here before, I've done this before, and the Lost Lands, I think, feels more like a kind of like a place card, so I'm going to create another sort of category for that, if you will. These two are kind of like, this is your soul path, you know, trust your path. So basically trust your path, you're already doing it, you know. This one does say, you know, stop overthinking, keep facing your true north. This one says, if you knew you were supported, what would you do? Now, granted, some of these cards could be really great journaling prompts, but that's just not how I'm using them. So I am redistributing these cards based on how I actually work with this deck. So then we're down to these 4 cards, which all for me, and from what I gathered from reading the book and what's on the cards and everything, are all about basically answering your soul call. So, you know, the idea is each of us have a calling for what we're here to do, and each of these basically ask you to look at what that is. So we have Warrior Woman. Have you answered your deepest calling? We have Imrama. What are you being called to journey to? Answering the call. What's your soul calling you to do? Called. Soul gifts and training. It's time to step up. So for me, these all have the same energy. So again, Warrior Woman, I think I could pull her out as being like an energy or an archetype that we could tap into. So she's going to go over there with my whales. So I think I'm going to go with this one for the called from the Starseed. So now we move into the these 4 cards, which all have a kind of like a new beginnings, new coming into a new world, however you want to say it. I think that the Earth School, like the life lessons, that's like great about coming to Earth and being a human and learning the lessons that you need to learn. So I think that's good, even though it's kind of like a new beginnings. It's like still remember what you're here to do. You're here to learn. But these 3 feel like they all have the same energy to me. Now, if you didn't have these little titles at the bottom, I think it'd be totally different. So birthing a new age, again, kind of feels like the same thing as a new earth. Like we're creating something new, right? So that one feels rather repetitive in multiple ways. The 7 sisters or the 7 star sisters, I feel like, again, that if you take off the bottom could be like an archetypal energy that we could tap into. And inner earth is... again, it's kind of about that new beginnings and knowing that, you know, like it says, you'll survive this. I think that's a great sentiment, but I don't really, again, not making the connection there with the imagery and what was in the book and all of that. So that one is actually going to go like in my maybe pile. Now we come down to basically the Starseed or the double mission, because each of these contains the saying double mission either on the cards or in the guidebook. So these are all about basically, you know, you're here to be a human, but you're also here to raise the consciousness of the world, right? So we have Pleiades, which again is double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. Starseed is again talks about that double mission of you come from the stars, you're here to help humanity. Here's just double mission, light worker, Starseed, Starkeeper. Now it says on here, cosmic ancestors seed the light by staying grounded, but it again is more of that starseed energy. So I think the Pleiades could be more of a if we took the bottom off, it could be more of an archetype to tap into. And then we have basically these 3. Now, cosmic ancestor, if you wanted to use that as in that way, but there is another card in there that speaks to cosmic ancestor. It's, I think, in the next section. And I really don't care for the double mission card. So that one I'm pulling out. The Starkeeper, I think, again, would be a really good, if we cut the bottom off, could be a really good sort of archetypal energy. So I'm going to pull that one out there. And with the Starseed, I'm going to put it in my maybe pile because I'm really like I'm not 100% on that one, even though these are Starseed Lightworker oracles, right? The Earth Pulsing is all about like spending time in nature, and I do really like this one, but I'm going to pull it aside because there is like a grounded card, and I feel that it's pretty similar to that. It's kind of a place, but kind of more about the grounding. So then we go into the kind of trust your time. So trust the timing of the universe. And then this one is about kind of like, again, trust the universe. Like it knows the way. I think that they're different enough that I could work with both of them without them being too overlapping. These ones are all, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, right? I am not the author or creator of any of these decks, so this is all just my personal opinion and how I'm working with them. So these ones all speak in their guidebooks to basically that being divinely guided, about being supported by divine energy, really into that cosmic mother energy, which is great. And that's something that I totally resonate with, but I don't know that I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards of that. So here we have like loosening your grip. This is really about like trusting the universe, which trusting in God, but trusting the universe, right? Trusting the timing to be what it needs to be. It does talk here about coping mechanisms and density and addiction. That wasn't a huge focus in the book, I don't think, if I remember correctly. It was more about like submitting to the divine will. But again, I think if you took that off, that loosen your grip, I think that's more of a like, oh, kind of relinquish some of that control. I think that's really good. So fall into my arms. This was all about surrendering to that cosmic mother energy. We are the Hathors was all about surrendering to that cosmic mother energy. Here it goes. The Star Mother, again, all about tapping into that cosmic mother energy. And so I think for these, like this one doesn't thrill me, so I'm going to pull it out. I do really like the Star Mother card, but I feel like that's like a more of an archetype that we could tap into because, you know, it looks like Mary, right? And then We Are the Hathors. Again, that's one that's like was really about the that mother love, but I don't know how I feel about it, so it's going to go in my maybe pile because I feel like we already have that here with the Star Mother, right? And then we have here the Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, and this one is about, you know, divine plans. And so again, I think that these two would work really well for tapping into that cosmic mother, grandmother, you know, surrendering to the cosmic mother, the divine plan, all of that. But I feel like they work more as better as like archetypal cards rather than, because we do have several cards over here that are about, you know, that surrendering to the universe, the cosmos, all of that. Here we have the Akasha, which is your guidance is divinely guided. Again, that's kind of a mythical, hypothetical, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, place. So it's going to go over there. And then I think we go into, yeah, these. So all of these cards are about basically your angel guides, your ancestors, your angels, your spirit guides, ascended masters, things of that nature. And so they do feel very repetitive. So we have star ancestors. We have the Council of Light, which is basically your star ancestors. We have the Messenger, which was the ascended masters. So I guess that might be a little bit different. So here's your soul tribe, the Great Gathering. The Keepers of the Earth says, you know, you're not alone. It's your ancient ancestors. So again, back to ancestors here. Your soul family, again, says you don't have to do it all alone. That's a soul tribe thing. Then we have the Star family. You're part of a team of souls. Call in support. You don't have to do it alone, right? And then we have you are not alone, community, isolation. This one's not so much about the cosmic as it is, I think, more of the here and now, the earthly realm. But again, still that idea of you don't have to do it alone. So we have like 3 or 4 cards that are like, you don't have to do this by yourself. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. So all of these, you don't have to do it alone. Great. I'm all on board with that, but I don't need 4 cards that say that. So we have Star Family and Soul Family. Well, to me, those are two the same things. Like, to me, that's the same thing. I'm going to keep the Soul Family because I like the verbiage on that one better, and it's got whales. So, you know, I'm doing that. Here we have the Council of Light, the Keepers of the Earth, and the Great Gathering. I think, again, if I kind of don't pay attention to what's on the bottom, I think I could use the majority of those. So in different ways, of course. Okay, so the next ones are like healing and growth cards. Okay, so these 4 are basically all about, we have water your garden for nourishment, take care of your body, deep replenishment for rest and retreat, deep cellular healing, and we have transformation, which again is deep cellular healing. So I feel like all of these are kind of like the same thing. These 2, I guess, are really healing on a deeper level, and these are more healing on a sort of a more earthly level, I guess. I'm going to keep the Water Your Garden because I think it's a really pretty card. And I think to me that like taking time to rest and retreat, that's watering your garden. And then we have these 2 that are kind of like that deep cellular healing. And for me, I think transformation, that can mean a lot of other things. So to really have that deep cellular healing, I'm going to keep the one that actually has that title on the card. Here's the Get Grounded. So we have the Earth Pulsing and the Get Grounded. I really like the Earth Pulsing card better. And to me, they have the same energy, like connect with Earth. So I'm going to keep that one. So now we get into kind of the more challenging, if there was such a thing in this deck. So we have Empathetic Starseed, which is basically don't take on other people's crap. And then we have Weight of the World, which again is don't take on other people's crap. So they're both about having boundaries. I prefer the title, the verbiage on Weight of the World. So I'm going to keep that just because the Empathetic Starseed feels a little woo-woo to me, to be perfectly honest. Oh, and here's some more boundary cards. I forgot. I got them mixed up. Okay. So then we also have actual boundaries, and then you got the love, which is again about boundaries. And then we have these two cards, which are protection and the Star Brothers. The Star Brothers is all about tapping into protective energy, and protection is all about tapping into protective energy. So again, I think you could pull the protection out as an actual protection, and Star Brothers I feel like could be more of a archetypal energy of tapping into maybe that masculine divine energy, because you don't see a lot of that in most of these decks. And then we get into basically the ancestral healing, soul healing, that kind of thing. So we have I'm Sorry, which is like righting past wrongs. We have Break the Chain, which is righting past wrongs, fixing your ancestral patterns. And then we have Unbound, which is releasing soul patterns. I don't like the I'm Sorry title on this one. I really like the imagery, but I really don't like the title. I think it's just that, you know, the apologetic nature of it that just kind of gets me. So I'm going to put it in my maybe pile because I'm not fond of it, but we'll see. Because this one is about your own soul and this one is about your ancestor line. Both of them in for now and see how they work. 3 cards that are really about like breaking down self in order to grow. So we have the Crumbling, we have the Ever Unfolding Rose, which says cracked open is happening for you, not to you. And then we have Cracked Open, Rock Bottom, surrendering to the alchemy of life. So I feel like that these 3 are all about basically, you know, cracking yourself open. The Crumbling, I think you could see that, to me that looks like the Tower card, and you could see that as more circumstantial. I think that this one could be used more of a, you know, cracking yourself open to see what's inside. It does say surrender to the alchemy of life, so it's more about, you know, just letting things be what they are. But I think you could see that more as a crack yourself open, like get deep down inside. Whereas this one is just like let yourself bloom, right? I know that's not what she meant for it, but that's what it says to me. And again, this one could be more circumstantial, but this feels like a Tower card to me. And because I plan on using this deck with tarot, I don't need a second Tower card. So I'm pulling that one out. And then finally, yes, we are down to kind of the sort of activity type cards. And these are all pretty much like these first few are like all movement cards. These two, I guess, you know, these are different enough, but these are basically the same thing. Jump in, leap in. Very much a Fool card to me. This to me looks a lot like a Fool card. So again, I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to go ahead and leave this one in and has a little bit more of its own energy. These two I'm just hanging out because I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with them. These two, both of these are kind of about like taking a break. This one is like, don't take things so seriously. And this one is like, you know, change your energy. But I'm not wild about this artwork. So I'm going to pull that one out and just let these kind of be like, go and do or rest and retreat, right? 2 kind of like activation type cards. So here's the initiation and here's a portal's opening. So this is like taking a step through a portal and this is taking a step through the portal. So this one, I'm going to keep the initiation because I think that that's a good, like, it's a good starting point. Portal, I'm going to put in the maybe pile because I'm just really not sure what I think about it. These 2 are both about stepping up and being a leader. We have the Priestess. It says, how are you called to step up and lead? And Forge, don't follow, pave a new path, be the leader you wish you had. To me, even though in the book and on the cards, they're kind of the same thing. They're all about taking leadership of, you know, your life and the world and things like that nature. But I think the Priestess we could use as a archetypal card, and the Forge, don't follow is more about the leadership. So that's what I'm going to do with those. And then we have a couple of, I wasn't sure really what they are. Your life is a canvas. This is all about manifestation, you know, creative accountability. I think that's great. That one works. This one is Earth, learning how to be a human, being in the world. That to me is we've already seen that energy, and I don't know where it was. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to put that in the maybe pile, because I feel like that one is kind of similar to something else I've come across. And it's not the first time I've felt that way, so I really need to look at that one better. So then we have a couple of like alignment cards and perspective cards. So we have, you know, look at the big picture, change your perspective. I could kind of be considered the same thing. Lift the veil and question everything and embrace the unknown. I like all of those together. I think those work really well. The Align Your Life, I'm going to pull this one out because I feel like this whole deck is about that and I'm not fond of the artwork. So let's take a look at the cards that made the final cut in my combined oracle deck. So we have the Awakening, Warrior Woman, Water Your Garden, Big Picture Thinking, Loosen Your Grip, Called, Priestess, All Paths Lead Home, Boundaries, Cracked Open, The Ever Unfolding Rose, Your Life is a Canvas, Star Brothers, Weight of the World, Whale and Orca Elders, Inner Temple, Star Ancestors, Soul Family, Earth Pulsing, Pillar of Light, Pleiades, Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, Dance with Life, The Great Severing, Keepers of the Earth, Unbound, Forge, Don't Follow, Earth School, Break the Chain, Deep Cellular Healing, I Remember, Protection, Sisterhood of the Rose, Mirror, The Great Gathering, The Initiation, Perspective, You're Not Alone, Trust Your Path, Lifting the Veil, You're Not for Everyone, Breath of the Cosmos, The Void, Share Your Voice, Star Mother, Take a Break, Jump In, and Trust the Timing. So I think I got a pretty good selection of cards. I just thought we would see here how many I ended up with from each of the oracles. So I think it came out pretty even here. I think I have a few more from the Starseed than the Work Your Light, and that's probably just because I like the imagery better in the Starseed. So sometimes when two cards had a really similar vibe or message, I ended up choosing the Starseed one just because I liked the artwork better. But I feel like I got a pretty good balance between the two decks. I feel like it's very balanced in terms of its energy. I pulled some cards for some archetypal energy. I pulled cards to represent soul path, connection to the universe. So I think overall it came out pretty well. Now that I've divided them up, let's mix them together. And I don't really intend to read with this deck on its own. I built this specifically to support my readings with my Moonchild Tarot. However, I think that you definitely could read any of these decks on their own, but just for fun, let's just throw a few cards out here and see what we get. So Weight of the World, Sisterhood of the Rose, and Take a Break. So I think that's a pretty good message, right? Don't carry the weight of the world, but be a part of it, and don't forget to take that time away when you need it. So I think it works really well on its own, but I am really looking forward to using it with my Moonchild Tarot. And there will be a video for this one coming up next, so we'll be able to explore these in a little bit more detail, but just for now, let's just throw a couple down here so we can see how they look together. Look at that. We have the Star Brothers, the Eight of Cups, and the Star Mother. That's really pretty. We have the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and the 8 cups in between. I really like that message. Of course, I also bring in the yogic path to this reading, but like I said, we will take a look at that in the next video. Thank you for joining me today. You will find links for the decks featured here in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video and will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.